But my beats, they are hard.
All right, hello, good evening. Welcome to another live episode of the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford and A.D. Drew here. You are watching the longest running HBCU Sports talk show on the internet. That's right. We're in season number 9. So, yeah, that's us. And you can see we're winners. It's been a long time, Drew, since we kind of have woke up on the same side of the bed and rolled up into this studio, our home studio, and done a show as winners. Of course, these guys right here, winner, chicken dinner. And those dudes on your hat, man. Shout out to the Morehouse Maroon Tigers getting that first dub in the Morehouse Tuskegee Classic. Congratulations, Drew. How's it feel to wake up a winner?
It feels a little bit different when you beat Tuskegee because a lot of those people who were in Crimson and Gold, you know, I knew lifelong friends over there, and they gave me so much hell last year. They were even giving me hell at halftime, Bryan, because we were trailing at half. But when you walk out victorious in their backyard. And I'm just going to tell you like that because I almost cried on the field, Bryan.
Wait a minute. Who cried on the field? Who cried on the field?
I almost cried on the field.
No, stop it. No, you did.
Yes, I did. But
wow, okay.
I couldn't go out like that. So what did I do? I handed one of our receivers. I took my belt off and handed one of the receivers my belt.
No, you did. No.
Because we had put that BTA. And Bryan, that was after, for the last minute of the game.
To warm up the bus.
Matter of fact, Bryan, I was on the sideline for the last minute, and I did it, and I put mine up in the air. Next thing I know, I turn around, and the whole Morehouse side is shaking keys all of a sudden.
Drew getting them going. Exactly.
I got them going.
I'm doing the same thing. Like, cried? Really? Man.
Yes.
Were those tears of joy? I mean, what kind of tears were those? You know, there are different types of tears. What kind of tears were those, Drew?
Oh, that because, Bryan, since I have been at Morehouse, that is the first time that I have been present for a victory over a Tuskegee-led team. So it was just that Almost like you've been when Steve Young won the Super Bowl
Oh yeah, when he was running
and
around. Well,
they
that
took
was
the
in the
monkey off
conference
his back.
championship. Oh yeah. The conference. Wasn't that the conference championship when he
No,
did
that was the
that?
Super Bowl
That was the
when they
Super
took the
Bowl.
monkey
Okay.
off his
Okay.
back.
I got you. Okay.
The monkey is now off of my back. I have beaten Tuskegee. So yes, you lost to the
Oh
team
man.
that lost to Morehouse. So what does that say about Winston-Salem?
Yeah, WSSU boy.
But,
They got
but
ran
Morehouse
over
has
and read
improved
blue.
over the last 4 weeks. This is not the podcast to get into it, but Morehouse has. And if you look at the trend line, we've scored more points every week of the season, and we've given up fewer points every week of the season. So, Brian, yesterday was the first time when those two lines crossed, where we gave up fewer points than we scored. And quite honestly, we should have beaten Edward Waters.
Okay.
Yes.
Uh,
And that was the
I'll take
catalyst.
your word on
I think that loss was the catalyst for the victory because they knew they should have beaten Edward Waters. They had it in their hands and they let it slip away and they refused to do it. Miles Scott led the comeback drive to take for the go-ahead touchdown. Brian, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe he passed for like 334 yards and ran for another 41, if I remember that correctly. He was named game
Mhm.
MVP.
Nice. Well, hey, congratulations to Coach Mathis, correct?
Yes, Terrence Mathis.
Terrence Mathis. Okay, I'm gonna just stop there and say congratulations. I was about to say something and ask something, but I'll just let you enjoy the moment and the win.
But you can ask. I don't have to answer. Just always keep that in mind, Brian.
Remember, I was just trying to think about what was the record last year. That's all. That's where my thought was going last year. So
I will answer that one. It was 1-9 last year.
okay,
First
all right,
victory over Tuskegee since 2021, Brian.
man. Okay,
Yeah.
and this was no, this wasn't the 100th Morehouse Tuskegee Classic, was it? Because that happened a couple of years ago.
No. The class. There have been over 100 meetings, but as a classic, it is somewhere in the 80s. I don't remember what the number. I had to look at my notes, but it's in the 80s as a classic.
Gotcha.
Starting in 1936 as a classic. So next year is a anniversary year.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you, it has been an amazing week. I think Saturday. I'm not gonna lie to you, Drew. Saturday felt calm up until a certain point compared to all the other news that was breaking off during the course of the week. And then sadly, we had the reports that started coming out from South Carolina State University, and then of course later Montgomery. And it is homecoming season. So, the month of October is supposed to be this great celebration where it's homecoming season. But, we couldn't start this show, especially talking in October and talking about homecoming season and not first mention the stories that had come out of South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Got a pair of stories here that I was pulling up here, both from HBCU Sports.com as well as HBCU GameDay.com. And so I'm going to read the one on Game Day because I just want to give a shout out to both not only HBCU Sports, but I think the article that I saw from Tolly Carr had a little more information. So I'm going to read a little bit of that story here, noting that South Carolina State University was on lockdown after a tragic shooting disrupted homecoming weekend and left one person dead and another critically injured. According to university officials, the shooting happened late Saturday night near Eugene Suites, a student residential complex. The violence broke out just hours after the Bulldogs' homecoming football game, where they played Savannah State. I think they won that game 42-9, I think was the
40,
score.
I thought it was a little bit more than that.
Might have been. It was 40-something to 9. Yeah. Authorities said the first victim, a young woman visiting campus, was taken to a local hospital but did not survive her injuries. A second victim, a man also visiting, was airlifted to another hospital for advanced care. His condition had not been released at the time of this article. Campus police put everything on immediate lockdown after the first shots were fired. Students were told to shelter in place, and off-campus visitors were urged to leave the area for safety. The university canceled the homecoming concert, which I believe was planned for that evening, as well as Sunday activities that were planned to close the weekend. This is from University President Alexander Conyers, offering condolences on behalf of the South Carolina State family. We extend our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the young woman who lost her life and to all who have been affected, Conyers said. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement as they investigate these senseless acts of violence. The safety and well-being of our students, employees, and guests remain on top priority. That happened at South Carolina State. And then, Drew, where you were in Montgomery, Alabama, I was reading a post from out of the New York Post that apparently late in the evening following, now this was after or in the, it sounds like this was in the area of where the Morehouse-Tuskegee game was, Crampton Bowl. In that vicinity or in that area near that game, there appeared to be for lack of a better word, a shootout that occurred between two groups all around that area. And the report I saw and read this was on the New York Post, so I didn't see this on Game Day or Sports or HBCU Sports. Maybe it's there and I'm just missing it. But apparently 2 people were killed, 14 others were injured. And Karen, the reason I say New York Post is because Nick Eden, Nick was on our ONG show last week, and I saw Nick's post in response to it. And I'm going to see if I can pull up Nick's tweet. But the article happened to mention being in the area where this occurred. So the headline that was published said 2 killed, 14 injured in Montgomery, Alabama, mass shooting after fight breaks out over football game in busy tourist district. Now, that was the headline in the Post. And I think, and Nick's displeasure with the article was he was stating to the author, he said that it was completely and utterly irresponsible of the journalist, Anthony Blair, to attempt to connect the tragic shooting to the Tuskegee Morehouse game in this tacky article. So I wanted to kind of take a second, Drew, because Morehouse is in the midst of getting ready for homecoming and give you a chance to kind of respond because A, you were in that area last night, and then B, you guys, meaning Morehouse, you guys have to start planning, or, obviously you guys have already started planning, but you guys now are dealing with homecoming coming up.
Yeah. Bryan, and this incident in Montgomery kind of hit close to home in multiple ways. As a lot of you guys know, I spent a lot of time in the Montgomery area when I was living and working at Tuskegee. So I'm very familiar with the area. The area in which this occurred was near an area that they call the alley in Montgomery. It's the downtown district, everybody. Brian, you've been down to Riverwalk Stadium. And this occurred between the Crampton Bowl and Riverwalk Stadium. This was about 11 something local time, 11:15 local time when this incident occurred. I was still at the stadium, Brian, packing gear up. Game ended a little bit after 10. I was still inventory and everything and packing everything up so that I could get out of there. And I did not hear the gunshots, but I heard the response to the gunshots, i.e., the multiple emergency vehicles. And if anybody's familiar with Crampton Bowl, which is on a major thoroughfare that leads into downtown, I could see the fire trucks and ambulances and police cars zooming past the stadium from the location that I was at in the parking lot of the stadium, loading equipment up. So, but to say that this was directly related to the game, heck no. What the author did not ask, especially in the state of Alabama, did Auburn or Alabama play? And if there was a fight over a football game in the state of Alabama, it was a fight amongst those two teams, not the people of those two teams, but the people in the state of Alabama are passionate about those two teams. So I would, if somebody got into a fight about something with a football game, i.e., you owe me some money because your team lost, I guarantee you it was over one of those two teams. And it's the same in a lot of our states, in Louisiana, it may be because of LSU. In Georgia, it might be Georgia Tech, or you get to Michigan State. So people are passionate about their teams that play on Saturday. In case you haven't figured it out, Brian, that's why we have all this attendance. But was this related to either one of the incident games in Montgomery that were revolved around HBCUs, i.e., the Alabama State homecoming or the Morehouse Tuskegee Classic? I highly doubt it. Of course, we have to wait on the investigation to play out, but I highly doubt it, Brian, doing that base. And this is, I hate to say it, this is not a first for the city of Montgomery. Montgomery has had a problem with incidents involving youth to the point where they have invoked a curfew a year or so ago. Basically, if you under 18 after a certain time, stay your butt in the house. And a lot of other cities have done things similar to try to curb the crime. Because Brian, it's not people our age. Heck,
No,
it's not even the people who are the ages of the student athletes who are playing these games that we're at. So,
it's a city. It's happening in a lot of cities.
Yeah.
And it's not new. It's not new, and it's probably one of those big questions and problems that every local city has to deal with in their own way. It's unfortunate that it gets thrown on top of an HBCU event because why? Large numbers of African Americans are around. I mean, apparently there was a fair going on in the area too, Drew.
Yes, there was, because I was down. We had our dinner Friday night, and there was a little local fair, basically right on the Riverwalk of Montgomery. Yeah. So, because I remember seeing a little small Ferris wheel and all the stuff that you would have at the fair, the food vendors and all of that kind of stuff. So, but once again, Brian, to say that this incident has something to do with the black people around who were attending the game, no. It may have had something to do with black folk feuding, but it is what it is. Anyway, getting back to your original question, Brian, you asked about homecoming season. This is, as an administrator, you have to be concerned. You have to look at incidences like this and go review your emergency action plans and your public safety plans, because prevention is an you know, an ounce of prevention goes a long way in these situations, Brian. And as a Tuskegee alum, and I'll throw this in there, we all remember the incident that happened on campus last year. And some may say it has been an overcorrection by the administration at Tuskegee University with the plans that they have put in around homecoming of this year. A hell of a lot more restrictions than have ever been had at Tuskegee. Basically, they have, in so many words, said homecoming for the students, alum, come to the game, write your check, and get your butts off our campus. Go home. Parking restrictions to entry points, you name it, there are a lot more controls. And given the incident that happened there last year, you have to overcorrect to make people feel safe to want to come back to campus. Notice how, Brian, I said safe. I didn't say welcome. And there's a difference. I'd much rather be safe than welcomed. And it's no different than after 9/11. How many of us actually remember flying before 9/11? How easy it was to fly before 9/11?
I vaguely remember. It's always interesting trying to tell young people what it was like before 9/11, right?
Yeah. I remember having to spend a night in the airport and everything, and just being able to walk around, go back and forth, and everything else. You can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. So, just we have to inconvenience ourselves, and people have to understand the reasons why we are being inconvenienced for our safety. Hell, don't nobody like doing the T every time you walk in a place and having to get wand down and pat it down or do whatever you got to do. And I'm gonna give you a perfect this at this game Saturday, because of how I had to access the field from the press box. The easiest way for me to access the field from the press box was to go back through one of the main entry gates, because there was no inside entrance to the press box. You had to actually go outside. Well, every time I went through that gate, I had to stop just like I was presenting my ticket for the first time and let them wand me. How you do. You have to put your hands up. And the lady said, you tired of me doing this? I'm like, no, I ain't mad at you doing this, lady, because at least I know ain't nobody else supposed to come in here and do that stupid, because you're doing your job. So, right. And I probably went through that gate over a dozen times on yesterday, just so I could do the things that I had to do as part of my job. But you got to put up with it. Bitch all you want to about all these restrictions, having to park a country mile and walk because they don't want your car to come on campus. Because you know why they don't want your car to come on campus? It ain't that you got it on you. It's when somebody get pissed off, you go to the trunk. Why do we have that long line to get in, and the line feel like it's moving 2 miles an hour? Because they are doing their job and wanding everybody or running you through the metal detectors. That's why they only have 3 gates open, because they only have three gates that have metal detectors that work. Get over it, y'all. Get over it. That's why you got 80 police officers. That's why these people looking at you side eye. That's why they asking you questions. Y'all wake up if you want to wake up in the morning.
There were only 4 schools that had homecomings this past Saturday, outside of Alabama State and South Carolina State's. Fort Valley State had their homecoming, and Bluefield State had theirs. But this weekend really kind of begins it, and that's kind of why I have that graphic there, because you can see October 11th, we've got 13 schools that have homecomings, and they're all over the country. I mean, from Jackson, Mississippi, to Ohio at Central State, and to Morehouse, to Kentucky State,
Morehouse is
Lane,
in
North
2 weeks.
Carolina. Huh?
You said Morehouse. Morehouse is in 2 weeks.
Oh, so it's Central State hosts Morehouse this week. So in Central
Yes.
State, you got Ohio. So you're Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Delaware, Baltimore, and Alabama, Mississippi, Grambling in Louisiana, North Carolina. I mean, they're all over the country this weekend, and I'm curious, you guys in the chat, even with some of the bigger name homecomings, the one at North Carolina A&T is always pretty huge. Jackson State is going to be huge because it's also got a big game wrapped around it. Are you all still planning to go? I mean, those of you, who I don't know what the numbers were like at Alabama State's homecoming. I'd love to know from anybody who was there if they saw or noticed any decrease in attendance compared to previous years. But for those of you in the chat, are you going to homecoming this year, or are you sitting this one out? There's a lot of things going on in the country right now, and does that make you nervous? Do you welcome these protocols and securities that are being put into place? Because I mean, it's an interesting time that we're in. So
it's not interesting, Brian. It's a sad time we're in. Just
yes,
say it, Brian.
It's that too. Well, I mean, yes, it is.
Somebody's child is not going to wake up. Maybe somebody's parent, brother, sister, auntie, cousin, friend. Because and 9 times out of 10, the person that they were shooting at is not the one who winds up dead, Brian. That's the sad part about it. And no, I don't need to put that information out, but I have heard from people who were actually in the area of that event Saturday night.
In which city?
In Montgomery.
In Montgomery, okay.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm sure that was very troubling. But so we'll talk more about the games here a little bit later in the show. But we had to start the show there, and I think I'm interested in how communication is being distributed to people who are coming, because when you're going on campus, or you're going, are there cell mass alerts that are going to be available to people who are coming to the event? Social media has a delay to it. It's not instant, so I can't say that, hey, you're checking social media to see what's going on. But I would imagine that maybe there's an alert to a text message, or you can sign in to be connected in. I wonder how many of our campuses, Drew, are connected. Are you aware of anything like that? For example, Morehouse, your homecoming's in a couple weeks. Is there anything like that that's going to be in place at Morehouse that you're aware of right now?
I am not deep into the homecoming planning conversations. I only deal with the specific areas that affect me and what I do. We do have the alert system for all of our students, faculty, and staff on campus that they encourage you to subscribe to, because we have been places away from campus, and you could be with 2 or 3 other colleagues, and everybody's phone starts going off at the same time when something happens, giving you alert that something is happening on campus. But like I say, we have it for those who are stakeholders on campus, but for people coming in from the outside, I'm not 100% sure how that works. And not just with our campus, but how many other campuses would something like that work from? And do you have the infrastructure? And Brian, although that would be a good idea, Somebody got to pay for that, Brian. That's not a free service.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's not a free service. So
and Emmett, I'm glad you brought that up. It's good that in certain places, certain events can go off 30, 40, 50, 60, 80,000 people with no problems. And then in some places, you can have 500 people at the event and all hell breaks out, Brian. So, but you have to plan these protocols. And I'm sorry, there are never enough security people, police officers, fire, because when your people, there's a ratio that you try to meet, but you never have enough, right? When it's all said and done, you just hope that you have enough to be able to prevent something crazy from happening to one of your loved ones.
Yeah. Well, let's pray and let's pray and hope that we have more events like the State Fair Classic where you can have 60,000 that attend and you don't have any of anything that goes off. I see Jeff Roberts said that I guess Jiho they're not allowing any gatherings on campus after sunrise. So yeah, well, just I definitely always say, keep your eyes open, folks. And that's sometimes the best security that there can be is if we support one another.
Brian,
out there.
Maybe we need to get somebody who's in public safety, these event planners or something, and somebody needs to do a show, a podcast on how to be homecoming alert for different things. See something, say something.
Yeah.
What to be alert for, what's the thing to look out for, because sometimes your spidey sense doesn't tingle like it needs to.
Right. That's true. Well, and then there's the, let's be real. There's the alcohol factor. When you talk about spidey senses sometimes are dulled when you're tailgating with a few of your favorite beverages, right? So yeah, just something to think about. While those incidents occur, I saw the numbers 24,000 inside the stadium for Alabama State's game against. But what was it like outdoor? Because if it's 24 in the stadium, you got to imagine, there's another 10 or maybe double that outside the stadium. I'm just guessing. I haven't had the pleasure of going to Alabama State's homecoming, so I don't know what it's like outside. But yeah, I got to imagine there's just as much happening outside the stadium as there is inside the stadium. And
and Brian, there was also another 14,000 plus who were at the Morehouse Tuskegee game.
Okay, good numbers. What's the Crampton seat?
I want to say somewhere between 25 and 30. I couldn't tell you what the exact number is.
Okay.
But good crowd. I don't know if people were able to watch it, but good visuals on TV.
Yeah. And again, I continue to remain. What I've said, I think I said this on another show maybe a couple of weeks back. Hey, our universities have to be willing to put out information that asks people to respect the campus, respect the culture, respect the history here. You want to be inviting, but you also want to be safe, and you want to let people know that this is not a location to come to if you're bringing trouble with you. I'll just leave it at that. So, but yeah, and then of course we're talking about homecoming headaches. Then you had the incident at Fort Valley State, which really was more so a post-game issue, right? And talk about having a bad week, Fort Valley State, right? Your band gets put on probation for alleged hazing incidents, where I think I read something about some criminal investigation was happening regarding allegations of hazing for the Blue Machine Marching Band. Then you actually lose the homecoming game to Central State 18-14. And then you have a post-game brawl, which if you've seen the video on X, Twitter, it's just a bad weekend for Fort Valley State all the way around, right? Really bad, exactly, Karen, a really bad week for Fort Valley State, losing to Central State and then all that other stuff that happens. So, yeah, there was a post-game brawl. It's on, you can just type on Twitter, Fort Valley State brawl or Fort Valley Central State, and I'm sure you'll see it. It's like a 2-minute video. It was one of those brawls where there was a brawl, then it kind of looked like it settled down, but then somebody wanted to keep it going, so then it kind of just spilled over. I couldn't tell if it was players and or coaches or, I don't, but there were definitely some players involved. Just messy all the way around. Just messy. But again, a big weekend coming up with homecomings, 13 schools having their homecomings this weekend. But we still got the past week. And I tell you, man, the news from the past week was heavy. And it was quite interesting. Maybe even some unprecedented things happened over this past week, which, I know a lot of us have talked about it this past week. So we won't get too deep in the woods in it, but I can't help but bring it up. And so we'll talk about it. And then a few notes from some of the games. There were football games that were played on Saturday, Drew. There were football games that were played. And so we'll talk about that as well. Hit the thumbs up and the like button if you would, however and wherever you're watching us. Everybody who's watching on Facebook and the Black College Sports Network or the BCSN SportsWrap Facebook page. Hello to everybody watching on the YouTube feeds, the JBN Online, Jericho Broadcast Networks, Black College Sports Network, YouTube feed. And, of course, everyone watching on Twitter and on Instagram Live. Make sure you're following the show. Hit the thumbs up, bells, notifications, all that good stuff for us if you would. All right, let's take a short break, come back, and talk about some of the juicier stuff that happened over the course of the week, as well as the weekend recap from week number 6 in HBCU football. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU Sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU.
College football fans, the Cricket Celebration Bowl is celebrating 10 years of crowning an HBCU national champion. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th as the MEAC and SWAC champions clash in Atlanta. Join us for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Hey, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm Bryan Fulford. That's A.D. Drew. Good to be back here with you. Drew, before we get into the football action from this weekend, I got to mention, it wouldn't be right if I didn't mention the story that sort of sucked the air out of the room over the past week. And that was the story regarding Florida A&M's well, there's two parts of that story. There's obviously the postponement of the game in which Florida A&M was supposed to play Mississippi Valley State yesterday in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome, or not the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Then you also had the SWAC announcing that the band announcer, Joe Bullard, was going to face a 2-game suspension, and the university was fined $10,000, so two separate stories regarding FAMU, and just my whole head just kind of blew up as I was watching all this stuff play out earlier in the middle of the week. But let's start with, and I don't know if you've said this on Doc's show, but I kind of wanted to bring it back to, because there's been a couple of good articles, some good reporting done by Gerald Thomas, Tallahassee Democrat, regarding some of the events that took place. Also, Vaughn at HBCU Game Day. But just to kind of put a bow on the failed Georgia football classic. I hate to use the word blame, right?
It's appropriate.
Okay, so if you had to rank 1, 2, 3, where do you rank the blame in this whole debacle of a situation that resulted in a game being postponed, and many people who had made plans to attend having to go through the whole process of getting refunds and cancel plans, so on and so forth?
Where do I want to start with the blame, Bryan?
Yeah, most important to least, wherever you want to go, 1 to 3.
Greed is the number one blame.
Okay.
Number 2, laziness.
Okay.
I'm saying greed. I'm saying laziness.
And you have to expand on this, because
I will. I want to get a 3 because I want people to think about it. You have greed, laziness, and instability. Those would be my 3 top.
I love. Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, exactly. Karen's like, explain. Saying
that. Let's start with greed. Promoter A comes up saying, "Hey, we could move this game to X stadium, X city," and we're gonna give you $100,000, $50,000, $20,000, whatever the dollar amount is. We're gonna give you essentially more than it costs you to host this game on your campus. You don't have to spend the money. You're gonna be making money, which sounds good. But sometimes all money is not good money, even when it comes through. Let's think about this, Brian. While the athletic program, we're gonna just use $100,000. May get $100,000 for going and playing the game, Brian. How are we affecting that community when we take that game out of that community? Those are restaurants, the hotels, the gas stations. There's all kinds of things that go on that not only bring tax dollars to that community, but pay people's bills, Brian. So we're by us taking that game and moving it out of town, we're disengaging from our community. We are disengaging an opportunity for our community to thrive and prosper. The community that we live and work in a lot of times, the community that supports us, we're taking the opportunity away. But and this is a two-way street with this one. We're gonna ask them to donate or to sponsor us for whatever, but we're not giving them opportunity to make their money back. We have to think about those things, all because we trying to get this easy money. It's almost like the dope man, Brian. I don't want to go out and get a job, but I can go out here and sell this stuff on the street and make this money real fast versus working a 40-hour job. It's almost a dope man mentality, Brian. Why? This leads into number 2. Because we lazy, Brian. We too lazy to go out and to hustle this money the right way. I won't say the right way, but to go out and do the fundraising, to go out and do the fundraisers, the dinners, the banquets, the golf tournaments, the alumni events, all the stuff that you need to do to help raise money for your athletic program. In addition to putting a quality product on the field, Brian, because we could go out and do all that stuff, but if we're not putting a quality product on the field, nobody's gonna come anyway. We're too lazy to properly vet these people. If they don't know anything about this promoter, somebody need to do some homework, Brian. Has this promoter done an event before? What kind of financial backing does he have? Is he willing to present you with the venue contract? Is he willing to present you with hotel contracts? And these are things that I know people have gotten stuck with. If he's paying for transportation, is he reimbursing you for transportation? Or is he paying you up front for transportation? Is he paying for meals and he reimbursing you? Or are they paying for them up front? Is the city or county where this game being held, are they one of your major sponsors? That goes a long way, Brian.
Okay.
One of the reasons this Morehouse Tuskegee Classic was successful, and I'm going to say it was successful, in my opinion, because it was essentially put on, backed, and sponsored by the city of Montgomery. The city wanted us there. Versus some of them, oh, by the way, they happen to be there. Dang, we got to pay all this overtime for these police now because somebody having an event down at our stadium. Have the backing of the tourism department or Visitors Convention Bureau or all these different entities behind this event. Because there's nothing worse, Brian, than when you out of town and you go to an event and there's no street vendors there, Brian. Because nobody knows about the event. And I've been to events in places where it's nothing but three vendors there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got somebody selling foods, you got somebody selling t-shirts, and you got somebody just with trinkets. That means that community was not engaged with that event, Brian.
Yeah.
Get those contracts. Ask the questions. You're afraid to ask the questions, Brian, because you're afraid of what the answers are. Is the venue secured? But you're afraid to ask them. Is the venue secure? When are your payments due to the venue people? There's nothing wrong with asking that. If we're going to be in bed together, I need to know. Because I need to make sure, Brian, it's no different than being in a relationship. I have no problem in asking, baby, did you pay the light bill? Did you pay the water bill? Because I don't want to come home and my lights are off because you forgot to pay the bill. Or you were short on the bill and didn't tell me that you were short on the bill. You short on the bill? Now I know I need to move some money or make alternate plans because I got to go stay in this hotel because I'm not coming home to a black house. Same thing, Ryan. Same thing. The same questions that we would ask at home. We don't ask smart business questions, Brian. This is athletics, and athletics is a different type of business, but it is still a business. And we sometimes do not make smart business decisions chasing these bucks because we want to have fun.
But let me ask this. Let me before you get to number 3. This situation between Valley and Florida A&M can inconveniently for both schools, where the leadership or whether it be athletic directors were in place, maybe when negotiations started, neither of those two individuals were around come middle of June, early July, when red flags should have been waved and said, whoa, what's going on? So it's like you had a whole new change of leadership at both schools, and what could or what should have occurred? Should the promoter have recognized that? Should the promoter have gotten out of it and said, man, this is going to fall apart because of what just happened? Or maybe it was their overzealousness, that greed you talked about. Maybe they were greedy in wanting to keep moving forward.
Brian, which kind of leads into number 3. The promoter ain't doing nothing but look for one thing. How am I going to pay for this summer vacation? Can I make enough money to pay these bills? How much money can I get back from these universities? Because
it is a business. I mean, when you're a promoter, you're running a business, though, Drew. So let's not fault the guy or guys for running a business. No,
but Brian, they are running a business, but why are they running a business? The business, profit, not for profit, and the motives. Sometimes you have to question. Look, some of these promoters think having a football classic is a get-rich-quick scheme because they could put 20,000, 30,000 in the venue and make some money. It costs some of these venues that we play these games in, Brian, costs upwards of 7 figures a day to rent.
Yeah.
Think about that. Knowing when you go into these certain venues that if it costs 7 figures to rent that facility out for the day, the first thing that I'm going to be doing as administrator, what kind of sponsorship or backing do you have? Do you have a Fortune 500 company putting money into this event? Or we out here trying to do golf tournaments and chicken plates, trying to get the money to pay this pay this deposit on the stadium, to pay this deposit to the security company, to pay this deposit to the hotels, things like that. But getting back to the third one, you mentioned that the athletic directors who were at the start when this thing started were not the people in charge last week. That's that
Correct.
instability portion of it that I was definitely referring to. And when you're coming in, especially during the middle of football season or right at the cusp of football season, trying to get up to speed on all these type of things is tough. Yes, I know we have attorneys at our various institutions, but 9 times out of 10, those attorneys aren't looking for that. They're just looking for the legal loopholes, make sure the contract language is right. The details of the contract are up to those people in the athletic department. The attorney's just making sure you're not signing something like in perpetuity or those type things from a legal point. They're not, those people aren't making those type decisions. The people in finance, all they're looking for is how much is this going to cost us? How much are we going to make? So that's the athletic director to be able to navigate and give those people those particular answers. But when the athletic director at the start, it's not the athletic director at the end, sometimes the ball gets dropped, Brian. And no disrespect to any of our athletic directors that were involved in this, experience is a teacher, Brian. Is there another athletic director that you can call? Hey, Joe called me about doing a game in so-and-so city. Some people are afraid to make that call because they're afraid that now that other athletic director is going to go and cut them and go in for $50 cheaper and get the money themselves. So we got to be able to trust each other when we know these events are going to occur, when we can make these calls, we can vet these people, man. There's a lot that has to go into it. Are we getting this information out to our fan bases? Do we have an alumni association that we're engaging with in that city, Brian? That's another huge one. Obviously, we know in this situation, we know what the FAMU Alumni Association looks like in Atlanta.
Right.
What does the Valley Alumni Association look like in Atlanta?
Well, I asked that, Chris. I don't know if you remember Media Day. I asked Dr. Shields Gadsden that very question. And her response, it was a bit, I'm not going to use the word unfair, but I knew that she was new to the post. I mean, had only been on the job maybe a couple of weeks prior to Media Day. And I mean, she gave a good response from the fact that they were looking forward to an opportunity to introduce a new market to Mississippi Valley State. I don't know what the numbers of their alumni base is in Atlanta. It's not anywhere near what FAMU is. I would tend to bet a steak dinner on that. But she gave a good response at the moment. It was like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to take our expose people to Valley and let people know what we are and what we're doing. And so, it sounded all good at the time, but
yeah, Brian, let me do some math for some people. Let's just assume that the venue costs $500,000 for rent.
Okay.
Any venue. That's at a $35 ticket, Brian, which is an average ticket, $35, which is probably actually a cheap ticket now. That's just over 14,000 people that you have to have paid. Notice I said paid, not there, because we know there are comp tickets with any of these events. You got to have over 14,000 paid just to cover the venue without sponsorship. If you're paying $500 million for a venue, Brian, you best believe that the budget for that game needs to be around $2 billion. That's to cover the venue, the payout to both teams, because they're not coming down that road for free.
Mhm.
Security and promotion. Here's the other one. What is the marketing plan around this event? Because there was none around this event. I live here in Atlanta.
Yeah. It was very late. It was very late.
Outside of the things that I would get from you guys with the ONG Strike Zone or HBCU Game Day or HBCU Sports, bruh, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be engaged with the local media here in Atlanta because of what I do for a living. None of the people who cover my school had even thought about it. And they all know I'm a FAMU alum.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think I would have gotten a nugget here and there just on GP.
Yeah. I do think we will given what happened with that event, the low attendance numbers at the Circle City Classic between Morgan and Miles, the low numbers at the Detroit Football Classic, I believe that was Kentucky State and somebody else. Might have been Central, but there will be some interesting discussions that occur regarding classics. And
there needs to be a reset. There needs to be a reset in our approach to classic. Bryan, what's the difference, in your opinion, from the classics when we were in school to the classics now?
Community involvement.
That's a good one. Why was there community involvement?
Maybe less things to do outside of entertainment. The entertainment spectrum was different then.
And that's a good one. I'm going to give you my theory on this, Bryan.
Uh-huh.
There were less of them. There were fewer classics when we were in school.
Yeah.
Which means each classic in a different city was special.
Was unique.
It was unique. You had homecoming. Most schools had that one classic that they went to. So now, hell, you go up and down these schedules. You've got schools, and I'm not talking about home classics, everybody. I'm talking about neutral site classics when I say this. You go up and down some of these schedules, you have people with 3-4 classics on the schedule, Bryan, with one of them being a home classic. They're not special anymore.
Yeah.
In general. We still have those few special ones. Bayou is special.
Right.
Florida Classic is special. Magic City is special.
They're special
Soul
because
Bowl
they're centered around
the Soul Bowl / Capital City Classic / whatever they rebranded it between Jackson State and Alcorn is special.
Centered around
Southern
the rivalry.
State Fair has been classic. Southern Heritage used to be special. It's not special anymore. Why? Circle City used to be special. Not special anymore. One of the reasons why it's not special, where it's not on the same level, change in leadership. Obviously, some of this is due to people passing on and things like that. Some of these classics have been around longer than some of us have been alive, Bryan. I was just a part of the Morehouse Tuskegee Classic when we started in 1936. Hell, my mother wasn't even alive in 1936, Bryan. And this classic has changed and gone through different things. But, the classics used to be special. Why were classics even created, Bryan? Does anybody know why HBCUs even created this thing called classics?
I would imagine it was to be a promotional tour for your university in a different city.
Exactly. that had, especially during the times of integration. This was pre-social media and everything else, pre-media period. A lot of times, the only thing you had were the black newspapers. So the only way you could go out and get new students were to do things like that, such as an Orange Blossom Classic and things like that, Brian. Now, hell, you have classics on top of classics on top of classics, Brian. So we have got to change this thing, and and that's the other reason. That's why you had the Northern Classic, Steve. Put that comment on that Steve has. Yes, that's another reason for a lot of these classes were created. The ones in Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, and because so many of our back in the day, 30s, 40s, 20s, into the 50s, if after the migration north, people would send their child back down south because that was the only place they could go to get education if you were of a darker hue. So as those folks move back to their Chicagos, their Detroits, their New Yorks, their Philadelphias, and things like that, this is an opportunity for them to connect with those schools that they had once gone to or schools similar to it. So that's why those special games would happen once a year in those northern cities, Brian.
Yeah.
So
I think that reset that you spoke of also has to be factored in. I see Steve bring up attendance. We can look at overall the attendance numbers.
Attendance is down because the economy sucks, y'all.
Yeah.
For people that look, especially for people that look like us. When government employees are worried about whether they got a job, whether the government's going to be open, whether the government's going to be closed, furloughed, and all that stuff, and all the things that factor around that, that's another reason why attendance is down. The economy sucks, bad promoters, and oversaturation of classes. You can't slap FAMU, Mississippi Valley State. You can't slap lipstick on a pig and expect her to be a beauty queen. You can't slap classic on a football game and move it into a different venue and expect it to sell. You got to do the work.
Yeah, definitely you do. While we're mentioning it here, I gotta also mention, I kind of brought up the tough week that FAMU had. The news of the SWAC sort of putting a pin on the whole controversy from last weekend's comments during the halftime show performed by the Honeybees of Alabama State's marching band. It was a bit unprecedented from what I was able to research and gather. FAMU was fined $10,000. The band announcer was given a 2-game suspension, which if FAMU had played this weekend, it would have been
one of the two.
This game against Valley and next weekend against North Carolina Central. But since this weekend against Valley didn't happen, now you're talking the next two. Homecoming is now in play, where potentially you will not hear the voice of the Marching 100 as you've heard him at least 30 years of homecomings. And I in looking on the SWAC's website, Drew, the only precedent I saw for this was related to Mississippi. Funny it is, Mississippi Valley State's band being fined for playing during a game back in 2012. This was unprecedented.
But see, there's a difference with that, Brian.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yes.
No, the band being fined for playing during the game is a violation of an NCAA rule.
Correct. Okay.
Which means at that point, the conference can add additional penalties to it. That's no different, Brian, than and we talked about the fight between Fort Valley and Central State, but that's no different than a fight that happens on the field or an ejection that happens on the field. The NCAA has a rule that says you get suspended for X amount of time. The conference itself has the right to add to that suspension, but that's by a violation of an NCAA rule. The poor taste by Joe Bullock is not a violation of any rule anywhere that you and I can find, Brian.
No, it's not.
It's a violation of judgment. Yes, it is.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a violation of respect. Yes, it was. But for the conference, and I love Dr. McClellan and everybody at the SWAC office, but for the conference to come down and issue a fine suspension for a non-athletic related incident, a non-athletic related incident is something that I have never seen, and something we have opened up a can of worms that
Yes, we did.
I don't know if we are going to be able to put them back in there. Now, the conference has pretty much inserted themselves into the battle of the bands with this.
Yes, they
Normally,
have. Yes, they have.
this type of thing is something that is happened, that is handled between band directors, university administrators. Now, if everything that would have happened to Joe Bullock would have come from Florida A&M University, I would have no problem with it.
Correct. That's where it should have come from, in my opinion.
But the fact that came from the conference office, this is not repeated violation of your band playing too long or anything like that. This is diarrhea of the mouth by a band announcer. This is something that we have to be careful of the precedent we have set. But Brian, isn't that part for the course of 2025? We have seen so many things, so many times where our governing bodies this year alone have created new precedents and opened up cans of worms that I don't know if we're ever going to be able to put them back. Without getting political, all you got to do is think about some of the things that our local, state, and federal government have done just this year that we may not be able to backtrack for a long time, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it did open up the can of worms. And now what I think is going to happen is they're going to be every
I hope she didn't, Steve. I hope she didn't.
Well, what it means is every band performance. Hold on a second. Every band performance now is going to be looked at through a microscope, and the comments from the band announcer are going to be looked at through the microscope. Because now that you've done this, what is the line?
Right.
And that's the thing. Band talk has always been
the petty is part of
the show.
Of the fun of halftime.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's part of the fun.
It is. And so now that it seems to have gone too far in many people's public opinion, and now that the conference has stepped into it, okay, that's fine. But now you're taking money out of universities' pockets. And so it remains to be seen whether there'll be any kind of review. I don't know, if you leave it up to, as Steve says, who knows? President Marvin may have just done that, but I don't know. But anyway, it'll be interesting to kind of see how the rest of the season plays out with that. I don't think that is the end of that story. I'm just going to put a little pin in it and say that's not the end of that story.
Do you think Marva being new on the job and not coming from the HBCU culture, HBCU space, may have factored into some of this by not necessarily knowing how to handle this type of situation, because this, you don't deal with this in Ivy League schools, Brian. You don't deal with this in the SEC. You don't deal with this.
Hold on, before you said, did you see Rick's comments? Hold on, did you see Rick's comments here? This and what we're talking about now is things outside of the actual playing field and the athletic event, where you have the conference fining a school for comments by the fans. So we're fining comments by the fans. You're fining band announcers for things said at halftime. Maybe if that's where we're at, okay, just say so. You know, but
and here's one thing that we don't know, Brian. And in this case, has that in that situation with Colorado and BYU, has the conference previously issued a mandate about it?
Good point.
If they have previously issued a mandate about it, then that is in line with what it is, because they probably said somewhere in there repeated violations could lead to a fine of X amount of dollars.
Correct.
And I need a band head to educate me on this. Has the conference previously issued a statement or memo or anything about watch your mouth during halftime?
Yeah.
No, Brian, we've been on here for almost 90 minutes, and we haven't talked about one football game. Well, we kind of halfway talked about one with about the fight, and then we touched on the Morehouse game, but we haven't gotten into the real games.
Let me give you a game then, Drew. Because
let's go to a break because
no. I gotta set this. Okay, Drew. See, you're the one that went long-winded, and then you want to go to the break. All right, that's fine. Let's go to a quick break and then come back and get into some of this on the other side. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. No need to talk. Yeah, there's nothing to talk about.
Except that loss by Winston.
Yeah, boy. A lot of points, a lot of touchdowns being scored. And, the Rams came up on the wrong side. Hey, if you're playing in a survivor pool, by the way, if you had the Cardinals in the survivor pool, gonzo. I know I lost them. Thank God I had 2 entries in one pool because, boy, I tell you, geez, thank you for nothing, Cardinals. Kyler Murray, what a waste. Anyway, let me stop. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
College football fans, a champion will rise in Atlanta on December 13th. MEAC champion, SWAC champion, the 10th Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year. Returning to Atlanta on December 12th, 4 bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned. Follow us for rankings updates throughout the season, and join us on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
Welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Still licking my wounds from that bad beat. You know, here's how crazy it is today. If you had the Minnesota, those of you, if you play Survivor in a pool, put your hands up in the chat. But I had the Minnesota Twins, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Arizona Cardinals as my 2 teams in one pool, and then I had the Cardinals in another pool. I avoided the upset of the Vikings playing a rookie quarterback overseas. The Vikings managed to come back and get a win. So I avoided the loss there. And when you know, just like karma and the football gods, Lil G, they struck back at me later this afternoon as the Cardinals get beat by a rookie quarterback on the road in his first win. Unfreaking believable. Tennessee Titans get a win over the Cardinals. God bless it, man. So, yeah, Survivor. I'm still alive, though. I got 1 game. Yeah. All right. As it relates quickly to some of the games that caught my eye from over the weekend, Drew, I got to take you to this game right here, Drew. Because just 1 week ago, Morgan State snatched a victory away from Miles College. Snatched a victory away from Miles College in Indianapolis. Ended up getting a block kick. Miles was going for the win, maybe like a minute, something left in the game. But anyway, it was a short field goal that ends up getting blocked. And Morgan returns it for a touchdown and ends up winning the game by maybe 4 or 5 points, 3 or 4 points. I forgot what the final score was of that game a week ago. Well, speaking of the football gods, Little G, they struck back at the Bears. As this was the final play, and how they ended up losing that game 27-24.
Thomas steps up. He'll throw it deep, looking for a man. There's Kibble. He makes the catch, and the Lions will win it at the buzzer. Oh, my goodness. Jimmy Kibble comes down with it, and the Hoyas have pulled off a miracle on the hilltop. Oh.
I swear he said Jimmy Kimmel, or whoever Jimmy was, not the TV guy. But doggone it.
That's his son.
Morgan State, man, hold on. And this is the kicker. And I didn't realize this until I saw the tweet. Morgan State had the ball 4th and 3 on the Georgetown 35-yard line. 4th and 3. Georgetown did not have any timeouts. And there's probably about 30 seconds remaining in the game. What should happen here on 4th and 3 if you're not going to kick a field goal? What should you do? 4th and 3, though.
You're on whose 35-yard line again?
You're on the plus 35.
The plus 35. Hell,
Yes.
I'm going for it because the first down, the game's over.
What kind of player are you running?
If you punt the ball, you're only going to get 10, 15 yards of field position.
Yeah.
So I'm going for it.
What are you calling the run? You calling the pass? What are you doing?
Oh, I'm probably doing an RPO, possibly a half boot, or rolling out my quarterback and letting him be athletes, sneaking that tight end behind him. You know, and Kenneth Johnson, a lot of people don't know Georgetown has a football team. The only thing people know about Georgetown is John Thompson.
Exactly. Yes, they do have and they play FCS football.
Just like Villanova. How many people do Villanova had a football team?
Kobe Masao is in shotgun formation. He passes incomplete, short middle to Joseph Kennerly Jr. Turnover on downs. Now, whether you run or if you don't get the first down, the clock is going to stop anyway on the turnover on downs, right?
I was going to stop after that play irregardless because first down, they had to stop, reset the chains, but then it would have started back up once the ball was spotted.
But the fact that you're passing and not running for it is even more of a head scratcher. I mean, look, I didn't watch all the up until that point.
3 is such a tough number, Brian. 4th and 2, I'm probably running the ball. 4th and 3, 4th and 4. I'm doing something where, like I say, that's why I say the RPO, where I could get my people in space, let them kind of make the decision.
Well, there was 32 seconds left when the changeover happened, and Georgetown is on their own 35-yard line. They threw a pair of incomplete passes before completing a 16-yard play to get them to that 49-yard line. And then they took a knee on first down, spiked the ball or whatever on first down. And then, of course, second down was an incomplete pass. And then you just saw right there, the last play of the game, Jimmy Kibble is the quarterback's name.
KIB.
KIB. Yeah, he's the receiver. And it's funny when you look at he must have been the only receiver because on the final drive, the quarterback tried to throw to him on the first 2 passes. Then he threw to somebody else to get the first down. Then he came right back to trying to throw to Kibble. And then, of course, he finally connects with Kibble at the end of the game. So, needless to say, that's why you saw 2 Morgan State Bears lumped around that kid because that kid was the man.
Run it again, Brian. Run it again.
All right, one more time for those who missed it. Here we go.
Thomas steps up. He'll throw it deep.
Almost got
for a
sacked.
man. There's Kibble. He makes the catch, and the Lions will win it at the buzzer. Oh, my goodness. Jimmy Kibble comes down with it, and the Hoyas have pulled off a miracle on the hilltop. Oh.
That's a head scratcher, Brian. As somebody who, at least on the high school level, was a DC. Number one, not only did you see Kibble get behind the receiver, the DBs, but whoever the other receiver was also behind their DB. So, I'm sorry. You start off, I got my 2 safeties are starting on about the 10-yard line and backing up. I've got a couple other people starting on the 20-yard line and backing up. I've got 7 D-backs in there. I've got whoever my tallest person is, my 6'6" kid who could jump. Just there. Your job is to do one thing: block a shot. Use a basketball term. Just deflect the ball. We need no interception. But not only was he behind him, Brian, he was like at least a half step to a step behind him, Brian.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're not going to rush anything but 3. Yeah. There's no reason to cover anything in front of you. Did you think they were going to do the band that's on the field play and just keep lateraling the ball?
Hey, it's a tough, as Kelly said, that's a tough way to lose a game. But again, you won a game the previous week on a block field goal attempt and turned it into a touchdown. You were on the verge of being down even more last week because Miles had the lead and they were going for additional points, and you blocked it, returned it for a touchdown, and ended up winning. And I pulled up Morgan. They ended up winning 24-17. So the game was tied up at 17. Miles was about to kick a go-ahead field goal. It gets blocked. Morgan returns it for a touchdown. So you talk about living the last 2 weeks. And Morgan State has still not beaten a non-Division II team. Just putting that out there. But, hey, guess who they got for homecoming coming up this weekend, Drew?
A D2 team?
VUL.
Well, Brian, it could be worse.
It could?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
You could be Alcorn State.
Ooh.
You know who they have for homecoming coming up?
Who do they have coming up? Wait a minute. Am I missing something?
VUL's cousin. VUL's cousins.
Lincoln. Well, speaking of which, yeah, Alcorn. Now it's funny. This is Alcorn's first home game of the season because they went the whole month of September, did not play any home games. And of course, bad enough that they lost that opening game to a team that had lost 20 in a row. Okay, and then they end up playing Prairie View, and with the score, Prairie View's leading 13-12 with 39 seconds left. Alcorn misses a 41-yard field goal. I'm not going to act like that's a gimme, but you put guys on scholarship, you would think that they could hit a 41. I don't think it was blocked because I actually watched it on SWAC TV. He just missed it, and Prairie View ends up winning 13-12. Ugly game, but as Coach Jackson says, a win's a win, right?
Yeah.
And so Alcorn is 0-5.
Right. And the reason I bring up VUL, Brian, not VUL, Lincoln of California, because like Steve says, and Lincoln of California is getting ready to start a SWAC tour.
Yes, they are. 3 weeks in a row coming up here in October.
Yes, I believe they've got PV on the schedule and somebody else in the SWAC.
So after Alcorn for homecoming, then they travel to Mississippi Valley State for their homecoming, and then they travel to Texas to take on Prairie View for their homecoming.
Yeah. Right. And for those who may be unaware of what's going on, Lincoln of California has canceled their previous 2 games, including this past week at West Alabama for their homecoming.
Ooh, yikes.
Well, did I say this past week, yesterday?
You know what? You know who we need to call? We need to call Charles Edmond and find out if that what's the latest. Because I swear I was just on the Lincoln University of California website, and then all of a sudden it disappeared on me. I don't know whether that was just a glitch in the browser or
they say it was due to injuries and illnesses.
Okay, well, they had a break. I don't know how they're gonna make it. Okay, so the question is, Drew, the question on the table, and I hate to do this, will Lincoln make it through their entire three-week run of HBCUs?
Brian,
yes or no?
I'm not even focusing on week 2 and week 3. I just need to see if they show up for week 1.
So that sounds like a no.
Because think about it.
Sounds like a no.
I want you to think about it. We talking about homecoming safety earlier. What happens when there is no game for homecoming? Because it's not like you could dial 1-800 homecoming opponent and get somebody to play at the last minute.
No, you still can't. Nope, doesn't work that way. Yeah, that's got to be nervous. Speaking of, mentioned VUL. VUL is on a four-week tour, homecoming tour, beginning this upcoming weekend at Morgan State. Then the following week, they travel to Texas to take on Texas Southern. Then they'll go from Texas to travel east to take on Livingstone for their homecoming. And then they'll play Benedict. So, VUL has 4 consecutive HBCU opponents, and they're playing everybody. They're going from the MEAC to the SWAC to the CIAA to the SIAC. I mean, they're covering the whole.
They're doing the HBCU conference tour.
HBCU conference tour, right?
Well, you got the other team just doing a strictly SWAC tour.
I'm telling you, man, y'all want that win so bad that better make sure you paying these schools. The call should have been made. Are you coming? Are y'all still coming to this game? Hopefully they pick up a phone. The VUL Generals. I thought they were the Dragons, but see, Steve's being funny. He said the Generals. I thought their name was the Dragons. See, come on, stop being messy, Steve. I already mentioned the fact that Alabama State got a big win over Bethune-Cookman. I got to point out, Drew, I cut the game on first play. Bethune-Cookman gets the ball first, right? And I'm excited for this game because I'm telling people take the over. And then I said take Bethune plus the 14.5. At one point, it was 16.5. Because, look, the previous 2 meetings have all been 5-point ball games between these 2 schools. And Bethune-Cookman, look, they were not as explosive offensively as they were or are this year. Defense is still, you can run through it like a faucet, but it is not as good offensively. They weren't as good as they are this season. So I'm thinking, okay, take the points. I've seen what Bama State can do offensively. There's going to be a shootout. There's going to be points. First play of the game, Drew, Bethune-Cookman, 1 play, 85-yard touchdown. Literally, quarterback catches, the DBs were asleep. I guess the DBs were still coming in or not fully awake. 1 play, over the top, touchdown. You're like, we got ourselves a ball game.
Corner got caught at the tailgate.
He did. He's still coming in late. And then all Bama State did was outscore Bethune 45-7 from that moment until maybe middle of third quarter, literally 45-7 as Bama State ran for, check this out, 388 yards on 40 attempts as a team. Now, last week they ran nearly 300 yards on FAMU. This week, they ran 388 on 40 attempts and scored 5 touchdowns against Bethune-Cookman. So that's what Bama State did. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the 4th consecutive game, I think, that Bama State has scored over 40 points. Not to be outdone, Jackson State and Coach T.C. Taylor, went to the Gulf Coast Classic in Mobile, Alabama, against Alabama A&M, and they took the Bulldogs to the shed and whooped up on them some. Tigers, cats, and dogs. That thing about cats and dogs. Well, cats ended up winning this one, 57-24, final score. Most points that Jackson State has scored in a SWAC contest since.
We know.
Yeah, since they put 59 on FAMU back in 2022. Jacoby and Morgan, if last week was his coming out party for this season, he made a play for Black College Football Player of the Year this week. 21 of 30. Which, if you do the math, I think is 70%. 314 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. This is the part that's really crazy. 12 carries, 123 rushing yards, and a touchdown, Drew. So, hit every benchmark that you would qualify for a quarterback and running back, and he had 5 total touchdowns. That's insane. Absolutely insane.
So Brian, Obviously, the game of the year, probably the most anticipated mid-season SWAC game that we have had since the expansion. Game of the year, obviously.
Without a doubt, hands down.
Here's the question. Here's the question.
Yeah.
Does the winner of this game and their quarterback, either Jacobian Morgan or Andrew Body, step into as the clubhouse leader of player of the year when their team wins this game?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Everything is on the line here because
and let me do one step further. Does the coach of the year also come from the winner of this game?
Every postseason award is on the table in this ball game. Every coach of the year, offensive player of the year, heck, depending upon what happens, maybe defensive player of the year. Obviously,
and I'm not just talking about SWAC. I'm probably talking about black college football.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'm not going to go that far just yet because I think North Carolina Central
they become the clubhouse leader.
Huh?
I think the winner becomes the clubhouse leader. I'm not saying they're the winner, but they become the clubhouse leader.
Well, look, here's the thing we got to remember, Drew. This is still the midpoint of the season. This game is happening.
I said the leader. I didn't say the winner.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's fair.
They're the leader as we enter into the back nine.
Gotcha. Shout out to No Chill Sports. I borrowed the graphic. I know those guys, Pooh and Ant, because I was going to do this, and then I saw them post this on Twitter, and I was like, oh, well, thank you. God bless y'all. Y'all were ahead of it, and they broke it down here. I mean, the points per game, the opponent's points per game, the number one offense, Alabama State versus the number one defense. The rushing yards is what blows me away, really, because especially what Alabama State has done rushing the last 2 weeks. But then you look at the average of what Jackson State has done on the ground as well. I mean, I feel like I've totally overlooked what they have done on the ground because I'm more so looking at Jackson State having a better passing game. Not saying again a passing game, not necessarily saying they have a better quarterback. And I think the quarterbacks are like 1A and 1B. So don't come at me on that. I think this is literally 1A and 1B. Best two quarterbacks in the conference right now, Andrew Body and Jacobian Morgan. Best two. Playing like the best two right now. And the running game, you have multiple backs from these teams. I mean, the team as a whole is rushing strong. Defensively, I guess there's a slight edge that I might give to Jackson State defensively.
The stat that sticks out to me, Brian, as I look at this?
Yeah. What's that?
Opponents' third down percent.
That's what I was looking at. That's what I was looking at too. Yeah.
Alabama State looks like a classic bend but don't break, with your opponents getting 30% of their third downs. But that's probably a lot between the 20s. Whereas Jackson State's defense looks like more of a take your wheel type defense, not even letting you convert even between the 20s.
Well, go back to what Jackson State, when Jackson State was rolling towards the end of last season, their second half performance was what really stuck out. And the fact that they weren't giving up points after halftime. And then you saw what they did against Alabama A&M this past weekend. Shut them out. No points in the second half. This team has built an identity surrounding their ability to shut people out in the second half. So while I am intrigued to see what happens in the first half, and this game is going to be at Jackson State, I'm intrigued to what happens coming out of timeout, out of the halftime. You know, the halftime should be probably a little longer because I got a feeling
it'll be a full 25.
It'll be, yeah. So you almost have a full reset coming into the second half, right? What's also interesting is when I went and looked at the series history on these two teams over the past 20 games, these two teams are basically split 10-10. Nobody has won more than 4 consecutive meetings in a row. Alabama State has one of those 4-game winning streaks. Jackson State has one of those 4-game winning streaks. But the one little stat that I found that pay attention to for this game, of the 10 wins by Alabama State, 6 of them have occurred at Jackson State, including 2 years ago when Alabama State, a lesser team than they are today, beat Jackson State at homecoming 2 years ago. Now, Jackson State was also lesser than what they are today, too. So I will put that in there. But this is the game of the year right now. Right now. This is the game of the year right now. I don't know if anything will come along that will match it just because of the performance of other teams. You know, I think I heard this morning that Alabama State does play Prairie View this year. Does Jackson State play Prairie View this year?
No.
So Alabama State Prairie View becomes an interesting game later in the season.
Should both of them remain undefeated?
Should both of them remain undefeated, right?
And you know the significance of that game, Brian? If they both go into that game undefeated, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves right here.
Home game on the line, SWAC championship.
You must have watched the show this morning.
I didn't, but I was just kind of thinking it in my head. I missed that part.
And that may be the first. That will be the first opportunity that the West would have to host the championship game in the on-campus championship game era.
Yeah. Prairie View gets both Alabama State and Alabama A&M. I guess at home. That seems odd that they would get both of them at home.
No, yeah, it's usually split.
It's usually one split. Yeah.
Yeah.
It brings up the question. I see, we got divisions, right? And I know, but man, what if there were no divisions in the SWAC? And right now, these are the two clearly the best teams. And hey, with all respect to Prairie View, I think these are the two best teams in the conference right now. That said, man, would be nice if the SWAC was best two teams advance, because I think we would see a repeat of this matchup. Israel, you want to be? You don't want to see them twice, do you, Israel? Huh? You don't want to see them twice. That's okay. I get it. Drew, did you make a prediction about somebody will lose in the East this year? And no one would be undefeated, because the SWAC East champ has been undefeated each of the last 4 years.
It's since the expansion.
Since the expansion, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I
Right.
did. I did say. Yes, I did say that there would not be a undefeated Eastern champion. Actually, I said there would not be the SWAC champion would not be undefeated. But of course, I had no thoughts of somebody coming out of the West, Brian. Let's be weird. PV was not the team that we were looking to run away with the West.
No.
if they continue on their hot
some
streak.
people weren't. I told people to keep an eye out on PV.
No,
they-
I didn't say PV was not going to win the West. That's not what I'm saying. But right now, Brian, does anybody that's left on PV's schedule look like they're going to challenge them out the West? The one team in the West that looks like they would possibly be able to challenge them in the West, they've already beaten in Texas Southern. No team in the West outside those Texas teams looks like they're going to contend right now.
Yeah, and they've already got one up on
UAPB. Looks like they were fool's gold.
Fool's gold. Yeah. Sad as that was.
Alcorn ain't hitting on nothing.
Nah.
Southern is not. Southern is not your granddaddy Southern. This is not Pete Richardson Southern.
No.
And Grambling still has yet to impress.
Yeah. So Prairie View has the bye this upcoming Saturday. Then they travel to Southern. Then they have a non-conference game against North American, which I think is a homecoming game.
Yeah, that's like
then back into conference play in November 1st. They got Alabama State. Then they're at Alabama A&M, and then hosting UAPB in Valley. I mean, that's soft.
And Brian, you know something else that we have not had in the home game era? We have not had a rematch of teams in a different venue. Every rematch that we've had in the home game era has been in the same venue both times.
Good point. Wow.
So there's a lot to think about.
Lot to think about. Very briefly, don't want to leave out our friends in the SIC and the CIAA. I'll just quickly mention the standings here in the SIC. Benedict keeps winning. They are 5-0, 4-0 in conference play.
Thank God they're not on Morehouse's schedule this year.
Gotta win against Allen. I think it was 38-28 was the score I saw. Albany State stays unbeaten in conference play, 3-0 conference play, 4-1 overall. I believe they won a game without the starting quarterback, I think is what the headline I saw. They ended up winning that game against Lane College without
Isaiah Knowles.
Isaiah Knowles. Not sure. He suffered an injury the previous week against Allen, so it remains to be seen how significant that will be, because they got an interesting game coming up this weekend. Edward Waters was off. Kentucky State, pay attention. Kentucky State 4-1 in conference play according to the website, 4-2 overall. So yeah, pay attention to them.
The one conference matchup was to Albany State, which Albany State beat them handily, and then the other one was to Grambling State.
Yeah.
Ooh, Doc, you pushing it. It's only been half a decade.
Oh. If Alabama State had a better track record coming into this game, I could buy into that. Like, if Jackson and FAMU, if FAMU had held up their end of the deal and were playing good ball right now, November 1, you get a game of the decade opportunity. And you also could apply that to next year too. Who knows? Maybe, the one good thing we can say about Alabama State is under Coach Eddie Robinson Jr., they have been in the top 3 in the conference every year. So it's not, or in the division every year. So they've had a winning record. They've been top 3 every year. So it's not like they popped up on the scene out of nowhere, right? They've been around.
Yeah.
CIAA real quick. I don't know if Steve is still in the chat room, but Virginia Union with a big win over Winston-Salem State, 44-34. Just got to mention these numbers individually. Virginia Union's Curtis Allen ran 34 times for 249 net yards. I think the kid ran for 225 the last week. This week he runs for 249 and 4 touchdowns. He's still running right now.
What does Dr. Parker do to keep these running backs up there?
I don't know, man, but I'm telling you, somebody, if y'all not, some of y'all schools who are losing, if you ain't putting a bag together to go after Dr. Alvin Parker, I don't know what y'all doing out there. Y'all alumni out there trying to raise money to get rid of people. Y'all need to be raising money to go after Dr. Alvin Parker. That was below average yard per 7.1 is what he ran. That was his yards per carry. 7.3, excuse me, in this game. But hey, not to be outdone, Dalen Lee passed for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then he ran 48 yards for a touchdown. So he had 4 scores as well. So, props to him. The standings, and I think Steve, when Steve posts the CIAA listen, because I think their standings were a little wrong earlier in the day. And, Steve put a post out, and next minute, a couple hours later, it gets done. So 17 touchdowns and 2 interceptions for Lee. Still probably not good enough to be player of the year right now, as long as Allen keeps running 200 yards per game. Virginia Union sits in first place. Let me rephrase. Virginia Union and Fayetteville State remain the 2 unbeaten teams in conference. Union is 2-0. Fayetteville State is 3-0. How about that? Fayetteville State 3-0 in conference, 0-3 out of conference, Drew. Or at least games that don't count towards the conference schedule.
Stop.
Johnson C. Smith is 2-1 in conference, but they're 5-1 overall. The surprise might be Livingstone, 2-1 in conference play, 3-2 overall. Interesting matchups coming up this week in the CIAA. Let's look at some of the games for this upcoming week, Drew. As I mentioned, there are 13 homecoming games this weekend. These are just some of the Division I FCS games that you got to watch. Of course, the game of the year, Alabama State at Jackson State is a homecoming. Jiho against South Carolina State. That'll be interesting from the standpoint of, can South Carolina State continue beating up on the Aggies? Texas Southern traveling to Grambling State for their homecoming.
That's going to be a good one.
I think that'll be
find
really
out if
good.
Texas Southern is for real.
Yeah, how real is Texas Southern? How real is Grambling? I think we're all interested in that. Howard travels to Sacred Heart. If Sacred Heart wins this, Drew, they might unofficially be the MEAC champs, because they have played and beaten 2 MEAC schools so far. And if they beat Howard, that'll be 3. That'll be half the conference. So, they might need an unofficial belt and say, MEAC unofficial champs.
But they would not make it to Atlanta, no matter what happens out of this game.
Will not make it to Atlanta, regardless. Southern travels to Bethune-Cookman. And then North Carolina Central will travel to FAMU, who had a bye week. Central, that's going to be a tough one.
In July, this may have been what we thought would be the game of the year.
This weekend in July, this weekend was circled as one of the big weekends.
Yes.
Now I don't know. Looking at other than Alabama State and Jackson State, I mean, the rest of them are kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're tuning in to Alabama State, Jackson State. You're not even watching these scores during the game. You just look at these scores after everything is done for the other 5 games on this screen.
Yeah. And by the way, just in case you didn't already hear or get the announcement, this game will be on ESPN U, or is it U or Plus?
As it was upgraded to linear.
Okay.
It was upgraded to linear.
3:30
Eastern. You or
2. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. So, yeah, that'll be good. I think the North Carolina Central Florida A&M game is on HBCU Go. All the other games, I believe, are SWAC TV. SWAC related games, SWAC games. Over on the non-Division I side, Kentucky State is at Edward Waters.
That's a game you would not have circled in July.
No. And it's homecoming too. That's going to be an interesting ball game. The game that we probably did circle in July was Clark Atlanta at Albany State. But I don't know. Clark Atlanta's kind of taking some L's. I don't know. Fort Valley State at Benedict. Fort Valley State had a bad week. Can they rebound? Benedict, can they still keep winning? Fayetteville State at Livingstone.
Fort Valley have enough? How many Fort Valley players will be in that game?
There you go. That'll be the big question. Yeah, how many guys will get hit with suspensions? I'm sure the news will come out on Monday or Tuesday regarding that. Fayetteville State at Livingstone. Sneaky good game. Fayetteville has been beaten up on people of late. And Livingstone, I mean, just imagine, can Livingstone get a win? I think they went on the road and beat Fayetteville State last year. This one should be good. This might be the best CIAA game of the weekend. With all respect to Virginia State at Bowie and Winston-Salem State at Shaw. I think the game that'll have the most points will be Winston-Salem State at Shaw. I'm telling you now, take the over. I know you can't find any wagers on Division II games, but if you got a local guy anywhere in North Carolina and he wants to give you 50, 55 points, take the over. I'm telling you now, there's going to be points in this game.
Hey, Doc, this looks like a topic for the show on Tuesday. Let me know if I need to start doing some homework.
Is that? But when he says that though, are we talking
thus far?
Thus far, games in this season?
Games of the decade in the SWAC thus far.
What, from an outcome perspective?
Just the hype and everything around it.
Oh, okay. Good point.
I mean, it's first one I could think of is FAMU Jackson State in the Orange Blossom Classic in 21. Now, whether the game lived up to it or not, because a 7-6 ball game may not necessarily live up to it, but that was one.
Jackson State Southern in 2022. Why don't I remember that game? What was significant about that game? Oh, College Game Day was there. Okay. Yeah, but Jackson State won that game. I don't even think it was a close game.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to, from an offensive perspective, this might be the best game since Alabama A&M, Jackson State, when you had a Field Glass and Shedeur Sanders. And that wasn't a close game. So, I mean, Jesus. And I mean, in terms of the pre-hype was better than the game because I think that was the game they blew Alabama A&M out, if I'm not mistaken. They wiped the floor with them.
Now, I can give you one in a BAC.
What you got?
Howard Central, what was that, 2 years ago? The game in which they went for 2 to make the score to put 50 up on them.
Would that be? That was 1. Howard Central won.
Was it 1? I thought it was 2.
Well, 2 is when Howard ended up winning.
Right. I'm talking about the one Howard won because of the revenge factor. I think that was a game of the century. The first one, no one was expecting it.
No.
The second one, when they got the get back, I think was because of the hype around that one.
And that was the talking. That was the game where there was a lot of
Yes.
talking in the preseason about, that one. You're right.
And got to throw that Celebration Bowl in there.
Oh, I still think from a that was the overtime Central.
Yes.
Central and Jackson State.
Yeah,
that is right now. That's the leader in the clubhouse. I don't think I've seen
And not only was the hype
game
there, but the game actually lived up to it.
I mean, you had a game that went to overtime based on a freaking Hail Mary.
No, it wasn't a Hail Mary. It was a game time drive when Shador hit Travis Hunter.
He threw about a 30-40 yard pass play to Travis. I mean, maybe it wasn't quite a Hail Mary, but I mean, go look at the stat. That was a it was not a 5-yard bomb. No, it wasn't. That was about a 30-40 yard pass play to him on that one.
Damn, Brian, we should know we was there. We were doing
we were there. Exactly. Yes. I agree. Yeah, the 2022 Celebration Bowl, best one so far, without a doubt. Yeah. Okay.
Send us your nominees. We may have to do a list.
This is what we kind of put out back in the beginning of the year, back in the preseason, in terms of sneaky good matchups. And so far, we got
2 out of 3.
Yeah, we got 2 out of 3. That's what's on the table. Look at next weekend.
No. Yeah. Let's see. Tuskegee, Albany State, no. Clark, Atlanta Miles, no. Alcorn, FAMU, no. PV, Southern. PV has lived up to their end of the bargain. Don't know if Southern has.
But hold on, that's a battle for the West, though. As much as we dump on Southern.
If Southern gets a win this week, maybe that stays.
It becomes an important game. Yes,
but if Southern loses this week against who they had again?
Wait a minute. Who
does Southern have this week? Oh, it's no.
They're at Bethune. They're at Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman.
Southern loses to Bethune. This game is not on the list anymore. Howard, Tennessee State. Just because it's Tennessee State's homecoming, we have to leave that on their list. But Tennessee State has not lived up to their end of the bargain.
I want to see what Howard does against Howard. Howard should be steaming mad after blowing that game to Richmond, and then they've had a bye week. I want to see them just beat the brakes off the Sacred Heart. I mean, prove it to me, Howard. Show me. Yeah. So, okay. Well, there it is. I don't have anything else, Drew. Again, here's the I want to make sure I said that right. Is Edward Waters, because my notes tell me one thing, but then I looked at something else and I'm like, no, it's I had it wrong on that graphic. Kentucky State is hosting Edward Waters. I know I had it on the graphic where I had Kentucky State at Edward Waters.
So
Kentucky State is the homecoming. It's their homecoming. Yes,
okay.
Kentucky State home. So again, the homecoming teams this week: Jackson State, Central State, Kentucky State, Lane College, Fayetteville State, Delaware State, Morgan State, Alabama A&M, Alcorn, UAPB, Grambling State, North Carolina A&T, and Langston, all hosting homecoming games this weekend. So there you go. Shout out to Dave. David L. Rhodes continues to win, Drew, in the pick 5. Another 5-0 week. This dude is like 30 and he's unbeaten. I don't know. This might be. I'm retiring this contest, Drew. If he runs this thing unbeaten, I'm retiring the contest. Don't ever ask. I try to do things to involve the audience and HBCU connoisseurs, but if he goes unbeaten, I'm done. I got to come up with a whole new contest. This is ridiculous, man. 30-0? I mean, really? Come on, dude. You know, I mean, I'm just going to start playing his picks. That's really what I'm going to do, Drew. I got commissioner privilege.
Yeah, but you can't catch him if you do that.
Huh?
You can't catch him if you do that, though.
No,
you gotta pick against him sometime.
I'm not talking about in the contest, Drew. I'm talking about where it matters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I gotta reach out to Dave and be like, "Yo, Dave, what are your 5 plays? Because you keep winning. I'm playing. So yeah. All right. That's gonna do it. I think we're all done for tonight, folks. Do us a favor. The BCSN Pod Zone is the podcast platform or the podcast feed that has all the shows that are part of the Black College Sports Network. You can go back and listen to the Sunday morning extra credit, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. You can go listen to Saturdays, Carlos Brown show, our show, all of the shows that are part of the network. BCSN Pod Zone. It's on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I don't think there is Google Podcasts, so it's just Apple Podcasts. But yeah, just go search BCSN Pod Zone, and please download, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd greatly appreciate it. So that's it. Champ D, Emmett. Champ D, I think is his handle. So, all right, Drew. Any final comments and thoughts here before we shut it down, get out of here?
No, just want to remind everybody as we get into homecoming season, be vigilant, be safe, and be here next week after these homecoming games on Saturday. A lot of bees.
All right. For A.D. Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. Thank you for watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We look forward to a great week as we get ready for the big matchup. All kinds of talk and analysis. Alabama State at Jackson State. Game of the week, game of the year, game of the century. We'll find out next week. Be well. Peace out, everybody.
Travel light, everybody. Well, holla.